A very good evening to all our viewers. So, if you want to know more about finance, if you have some kind of hesitation when you are in the boardroom and want to understand more in detail about how does the finance works there, this is the podcast or this is the spotlight series that you must listen. Today, we are going to cover our member under the spotlight, Mr. Sandesh. At Mentor My Board, we are dedicated to developing these critical skills of financial acumen in business leaders, preparing them to serve efficiently on the boards and contribute to the organizational success that they are associated with. Mentor My Board offers comprehensive training programs that enhance productivity, that enhances the strategic thinking, the workshops, the seminars, so on and so forth, focused on various leadership skills, resilience, decision making frameworks, strategic roles of the directors that they need to play in the boardrooms. Experienced mentors provide these personalized guidance, helping leaders refine their skills and applying them in the real world scenarios. Additionally, at Mentor My Board, we facilitate the connections between business leaders and seasoned board members, creating opportunities for learning, collaboration, and networking through our events, forums, and various podcast series too. So, with this, without a further ado, let us all welcome today Mr. Sandesh, who is an expert in business P&L ownership, FP&A, finance controllership, and team building. A very good evening to you, Sandesh ji.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you very much for inviting me for this conversation and look forward to have more questions from your side, which will push me a great.
Sure, wonderful. So I understand, Sandesh ji, you have a total experience of 20 years plus, and that too with diverse industries that have been the key milestones in your career. So, how have these experiences shaped you up, your approach in the financial management and the corporate governance, ecosystem as a whole?
See, my overall career spans across 30 years now. Out
Oh,
of that, roughly around 26 years is post qualification.
mhm.
So, what I've witnessed is I've seen the 1993 when the economy started getting liberalized. So, from the red tape to a liberal approach, I'd witnessed. In my career span, I have seen three indirect tax transitions, which has having sales tax, then VAT and GST. And happy to share that I am part of Salutech and we are having our own GST exact tax as a product.
Wow.
At the same point of time, I have come across with three very important strategic inflection points. The first thing is I have witnessed dot-com boom and a burst, right? Both the things. And that is the period where I was associated with a venture capital fund of a leading private sector bank. And very proudly, I can say there are two companies of that bouquet of investment are market leaders today in B2B digital payments and C2B digital
Mhm.
payments. So this is the success which I had seen. At the same point of time, the two other companies who are in content and the travel could not get the necessary market momentum. So it has taught a very important thing that when it's a startup, when it is something which is innovative, you have to be cautious, you have to be aggressive, and you have to be along with the business to visualize their dreams and need to set the processes accordingly. The other point which I've seen is I've seen the ATM industry for almost now 15 decades, 15 years plus, almost 1.5 decades. I've seen 500 ATMs to 2 lakh plus ATMs in the industry. That's where I've seen how the growth can happen, how the bank can see ATM as a unique selling proposition, and how the customer change after 15 years or so. ATM may be a white elephant. So you need to manage cost very wisely. You
Hmm.
need to put the red flags to the business if they're too long on this journey, because something which is the ultimate aim for the business is long-term profitability, right? That is also and the stakeholders aiming for that.
Right.
The third thing which I would like to quote is I just narrated about the GST and the indirect tax. The digitization has played a very important role, and the COVID has played another important role in people going for digitization or digitalization.
True.
And that's where there's a void which is getting created. And when it talks about something which is not been done in a person, always carries some kind of risk element which is having security related concerns, and we need to gear for it.
True, true. So I think you covered wide range of concepts starting from the startups industry, covering the digital boom, covering the the UPI payments that we are used to now, and it seems like without UPI, India will not even further kind of progress anymore. So we are that used to UPI and the banking payments now. So rightly said. But then I understand that you've successfully balanced all these roles and you've kind of navigated through all these situations. So I wanted to understand that how do you ensure that these financial strategies will align with the broader business goals, particularly in the complex environments? Particularly, we saw the COVID challenges that happened and the UPI that came up as a solution. I mean, more so post COVID, so on and so forth. So, there are a lot of things that are happening in the environment around us, the surroundings around us, which are very volatile. So, how do
Right.
you ensure these financial strategies that align with the broader business goals if you are on board of a company?
See, the very important thing is finance should reflect what business is. So first and foremost rule is your finance and account should understand the
Hmm.
business drivers, and the risk factor associated with. So we can set the processes, practices in place. This is one thing. Second thing is when we come to the financial planning and analysis and the strategic support, right? So you
Right.
need to take that leap into the future along with the business. So you need to be part of that journey. Okay, something which is not certain today, something is based on the assumptions. So those assumptions needs to be objectively evaluated, and we need to set the course correction well in
Hmm.
advance when we take that journey. In this entire thing, it's very important that we are having a cohesive team, because it not only involves the business vision, it does not involve only compliance and accounting, it importantly involves execution. And the operation matters the most, and it caters to the various functions within the organization.
Hmm.
Creating a purpose within the team to follow the processes and the practices will lead us to where we want to be.
Right. Right. So I understand that you have also been into direct and indirect taxation, and you've seen that change. You've seen the transition from VAT to GST and so on and so forth now, right? So I want to know more about your experience and how these changing environments, right? That if you can share some insights on how you have managed these responsibilities while maintaining the ethical standards of the business and navigating through these tough taxation compliances.
See, now indirect tax, if you talk about it, as now currently is getting standardized and simplified to a great extent
Hmm.
uh, with the GST in place.
True.
The earlier we talk about the excise, VAT, and the sales tax before that, and the state level and the central level. There's a various, every state may have a different kind of approach to it. But it is getting simplified. So I assume with the digitization, more window-based resolution will reach to a level where the litigations will be less.
Right.
It's documented well now. Coming to the direct tax is always a very important thing. The what position you are taking, and that position what you are taking, you need to justify when the assessments are there as such. I would like to quote that I have labeled under there was a huge demand on us in one of the again a leading MNC. The demand turned into the refund. The very basic fundamental thing is you need to have your documentation in place. Should not hesitate to rope in an expert when it is required.
Hmm.
So you need to go for that helping hand if it is required. And then you as a company, expert on the board, documentation in place, you
Hmm.
can meet all the ethical standards.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. So I know that, many finance professionals, right, who have started as finance professional have throughout their career been into the same field, handling finances, handling maybe either, a very niche about finances as well. So if some person is doing GST, he would be an expert in GST, but then he would not be aware about other aspects of finance. But your career, and as I have, understood, it kind of transitions from IT to ITES, banking, finance. So, how do you kind of, enhance this ability to implement these effective financial strategies and the the governance practices and this industry diversification that you have to the boards?
Right. See, I would like to give credit to my initial days where probably 30 years back, the super specialization was not the norm. When you are the head of an accounts, you should know the accounts, you should know the taxation, you should know the ROC compliance and everything. That over a period of time, as the complexity increases, you need to have the specialized skill sets in place. What
Right.
doesn't change is the fundamental thing, and that is you need to have your own knowledge base
Mhm.
because that will help you to garner right skill set for you who may be a better skill set in that particular aspect, but whatever
Right.
advice you are getting will evaluate it effectively. So that is one thing which we need to always keep in mind. The
Hmm.
other thing is, let's say if you take an example of accounting.
Hmm.
Accounting every say is evolving, right? Many a time we have to do some catch up also. If I
Correct.
quote you an example from telecom sector, we used to take a mobile as a service, we used to pay for it. Then
Right.
suddenly in the competition, right? Competition comes, you get a bundle product. You take a service,
Correct.
you get a handset free. Then you come, okay,
Hmm.
further or maybe a discounted rate. So all these changes, business changes, your
Hmm.
market positioning has a pressure on the accounting also to change, to
True.
set the accounting standards rightly. So that's why we are having continuous revision in the accounting standards to tune with the business and the economy. And
True.
of course, it's always a creative field, right?
I understand. I mean, I'm surprised you mentioning it as a creative field because we have seen professionals working in the same kind of patterns, throughout the years, without any innovation in the technology or without any innovation in the processes that they do. And things have been continuing. I'm happy that you have kind of brought that aspect to discussion. With this in mind, I would also want to understand, how do you see your role in influencing and upholding the corporate governance standards within the organizations that you have worked? And what are those key governance challenges that you would have encountered, and how did you address them, if any?
Right. See, the corporate governance is always, I was in part and parcel of it from day one in the industry as such. Because strategy and corporate governance goes many times hand in hand when you're also having the accounting and the compliance as one of the hat what you are wearing.
Yeah, right.
From the governance perspective, what is important thing is we need to set a basic framework
Hmm.
which is visible to everybody. There needs to be a percolation of that framework to the bottom of the pyramid.
Right.
We need to set up a evaluation metrics, like we do the risk assessment control metrics kind of scenario, which like SOX and FCPA, which I have experience in the multinational companies. India also the similar thing. So we need to set the framework, we need to set the evaluation metrics, and we need to carve out, okay, what can be an exception, why it is there, what is the business reason, the risk and reward. The putting that control, if it's going to be an expensive thing and risk is not that high, probably we can still compromise on that to some extent. And the remediation follow-up is a very important aspect.
Hmm.
I've done SOX 100% compliance for consecutive 3 years and FCPA 5 years audit 100% compliance. What is the important thing is proactively set everything in place, have the internal audit done before the external, do the remediation, document it, and move ahead.
Right.
And when it comes to the board and the as such, what is important is, as I mentioned, the expert opinion is matters. Same point of time, in-house knowledge also matters the most.
True.
Over and above this, what is important is independent and objective evaluation. When it is needed, when you have to put forth a particular point, put that point in. The integrity is the most important thing, which the time passes, then you cannot regain. So what you have to say at then and there.
Right, right. So true. So contribution in the board meetings, I understand, has to be then and there. And, generally it happens so that when there are discussions going on, and if there are people who do not understand finance in depth or in detail, they can seek for some expert guidance or expert opinion on the matter that is being discussed in the boards, right?
Absolutely, that is always there. See, ultimately, everybody should have a common objective and purpose to resolve. If there's any
Right.
slightest doubt, and obviously it is there. If I have to know something which is too technical, probably I will rely on someone else who is better than me in that aspect. So likewise, if I can help, or if I can, there can be a smaller group which can form to serve this purpose. Maybe a
True.
subcommittee.
Wonderful. I also understand you being at this position and you having led a various teams. You are a team leader and you have developed that talent in your organization. Right. So, as an efficient, leader of your organization, what are your strategies for building and retaining the high performance teams? Because it is very important for those key people to be in the organization in your growth journey. If you are a startup, definitely that is kind of the sole motive that you have, that your key employees stay with you. If you are a larger organization as well, to maintain the smooth functioning of all the departments, it is essential that your high performance team members or the key team members stay with you for a longer period of time. So how do you ensure that your teams are aligned with the company's vision, the company's financial and strategic goals, and so on?
Right. See, the very important aspect which I noticed is there's a change in the behavioral pattern in last 3 decades. When I
True.
started my career, the young guy is having a particular, like me, I had a certain kind of set rules. As I progress today, when I interact with the current generation, they have something different. So what was necessary today, they believe more in the experience, what they are getting it, right?
Right.
So you have the young generation, you have something which is the mid age group, and something which is of your age as such. So everybody has a different aspirational level. Having said that, what is common is everybody likes to have appreciation when they do something good. So do
Right.
not hesitate to appreciate, be very generous in it. Same point of time, have the KPIs review regularly. Whenever required, you raise the red flag, course correction, give them the feedback. Feedback matters the most. And while you're appreciating, giving the feedback, making an environment where they can learn simultaneously and implement. With this thing, then probably retention becomes very easy, because nowadays people may not work for money only. They need something more than that.
So true. So true. I mean, we've seen the shift in the kind of employees that we have had in the organization since past, some 10 years before and today. And the aspirations of the younger generation are much beyond money that is being offered to them, in terms of the work culture of the organization, in terms of the other benefits that are offered to them, in terms of the free time, or the precious time that they can devote for their passion or for their hobbies. These different things do matter to them a lot today, than what it would have mattered to us maybe, say, around 20 years back.
Right?
So I totally understand. But I really liked the point that you mentioned about being generous in giving them, in praising them, and at simultaneously maintaining the KPIs to kind of give them the feedback as well. So
Right.
that kind of creates a balance in the organization, is what I understand, and that will give them a healthy culture as well. So truly understand your point. And on this point, taking it further, because we are speaking about people, so I want to understand collaboration with departments like the supply chain, the HR, the operations, the financial team. So this is really, really very crucial. with people everywhere around, and now the technology taking over, many of these aspects. Can you share some examples where these cross functional collaborations lead to a significant improvement in the business performances? Because what I understand is today technology has taken out a lot of things from the human work that we are already doing, and it is taking over more and more. So how is it that we kind of cope up with those things, and plus how is it that we can also improve in the business performance down the line?
Right. So there is definitely a shift which has happened in uh, efforts required to build a cross-functional team for a larger project. See, the earlier the advantage was okay, you are going to one office and you meet together. There is a room which covers a war room or whatever you name it. You log there. If there is a firefighting, resolve it, and you come out of it. Today the advantage probably is that personal bonding may not be there because we do not meet so often. The other thing is 24 by 7 MS Team is works, right? Or maybe the Google Meet or whatever the organizations are using it. Here we need to connect the dot between the personal bonding, going for an extra mile,
Hmm.
and when we are not meeting in person, can we create an opportunity for the team to have some kind of online gaming activity or interaction or the quiz, or can we structure them in once in a year kind of thing, that particular team for an outing or the recreation activity? Because it's very important that personal bond has to be created for a long term perspective, and
True.
I believe that we are looking for a long term sustainability. So that is just, I have done something which is very around public sector bank, large projects, a very short duration. I was part of a cross-functional team. And though the finance guy was supposed to deal with the supply chain guys, the logistic, custom guys. Here, that was a very early part of my thing. What I understood there is once you know what needs to be delivered and everybody knows their role, they need to adhere to their role. And if the time permits, they can go for an extra mile because only team wins. When if you do not deliver, it's not that XYZ has failed, its entire team fails.
True.
That kind of mindset we need to create.
Very true, very true. And even, going beyond, if there is some fiasco in the board decision that has been taken, so it is the entire board collectively that fails for that particular decision. And it is not the individual director who would have proposed, or who would, the particular point
Right.
in on the table, right? So
So,
I totally agree and accept what you're saying. With this in mind, how do you perceive the role of communities like Mentor My Board in shaping the future for corporate governance in India, and how can your extensive experience contribute to our mission of empowering these board members and enhancing the governance standards?
mentor my board and Neha, you in person, when I come across that tagline of 100K directors network, it is really carries a very good aspirational value. Second thing is your actions and the mentor my board, the platform and the proactive sessions what they conduct with a set frequency, which keeps that learning go on and on. So every point of time you can see okay something new is coming, and obviously when you get something without putting in extra efforts to look forward at a set frequency, your time is saved. You're structured to that kind of learning process. You get
Yeah.
an opportunity to mingle with the other guys whom you think may have some right proposition or value proposition both parties can share. It is wonderful. I think this is the right time for this initiative to continue, and very soon in future we'll have that 100K.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for these kind words. And in your view, what are those emerging trends in the corporate governance that the companies need to be prepared for, so that we, through the platform of Mentor My Board, can address those trends as well?
See, one thing which is happening is there are many companies now started valuing independent directors because of their independent evaluation and approach towards the decision.
Hmm.
Second thing is, as we see, there will be always an up and down in the VC cycle and the PE thing, but they always prefer to have some independent eye. The reason is the external guy can breathe and feel the air differently in the boardroom. The guy sitting there and there probably may not sense that thing. Plus, he brings the external learnings also.
True.
Having said that, what is changing and what will impact the most is the security related concerns, data protection related concerns, because that is going to be the future for IT per se, industry per se, and most of the things now we are going to have through like this kind of call. Right? We have the norms in place. There are rules in place. Everything is there. It always carries the risk also.
True.
So that is where I think will be the future. That we need to digital savvy directors.
Wow. So digitization or making them digitally savvy is what you recommend to
That's right.
platforms or communities like us. Thank you. That was wonderful. And what would your advice be to the aspiring finance professionals who are kind of looking to make an impact in the corporate governance landscape? And how can these, leverage, how can they leverage these communities to advance their careers in the future?
See, best thing for us current young finance professional, they got such kind of wonderful system in place, platforms in place, which were not there 30 years back. They're available now. Second thing is acceptance as also there in the industry to have the young member on the board. So the age is no criteria nowadays. What is important is can
True.
you add value to business? And that openness is a good thing. So they should pursue their normal career and aspire to play such kind of roles whenever possible.
Wonderful. So you have been an expert in ERP implementation, and how do these systems kind of contribute to more transparent and efficient governance? And what are the challenges that you would have faced during these implementations of ERP? Because today, in a lot of manufacturing segments, I mean, manufacturing industry, when we speak to the promoters, they are kind of continuously struggling for the ERP implementations in their companies. They would have started with a project, but for their entire team to kind of imbibe the ERP implementation and go through the entire process becomes really difficult and challenging for them to convince the entire team. So what would be your suggestion? Because looking at the kind of massive growth and the scale that we are looking forward for, manufacturing has to be the backbone of the economy in the future. So when these ERP systems are not kind of performing well, maybe, or not kind of penetrating down, I will say, not even performing well, they are not penetrating down the top layer of the management. How is it that you see these systems can help them?
See, actually, what has happened is ERP are now currently working as a transaction database. Let's say there are multiple business reporting tools in place, right? Which management has easy access.
Hmm.
What is important for success, which I witnessed, is you need to understand business processes. My expertise in ERP comes from a business process understanding. Once
Wonderful.
you know the business process, once you know what is your current and what is your future,
Hmm.
what variables are going to be there.
Hmm.
So you need to factor those variables in any implementation. You need to have some kind of flexibility because future can again change. You may need some more granular level information.
True.
How futuristic you are designing your requirement, sharing those requirements with your implementation partner, then while doing the testing, how detailed testing you are doing, because that is the only place where you can stop a rollout, let's say user acceptance test. Because after rollout it becomes little bit cumbersome. So I had implemented something for a leading MNC 20 years back, is still running because it's a futuristic approach which is very important. Now
Wonderful.
coming to the board, no, the transactions are placed, the variables are set. So whatever the board wants, they need to currently there are multiple reporting tools. They have to just make that tool talk with the ERP environment. They can extract the data because ultimately the inference is drawn on the data and how the data is presented.
True.
So
Very
this
true.
So these two things managed properly, we are good.
I think this was a really wonderful suggestion for all the manufacturing units or the owners who would be looking forward to this particular, video clipping. And last but not the least, I would love to know what are your key mantras of success, because you've kind of seen a very great career since past over 30 years of experience. So, what are your key mantras that you follow?
I think I believe in the PPT, right? That's what the earlier thing. People, process, and technology. This is very important for you to be always aligned to. And over and above that, integrity is a must. There cannot be anything else than that. And how you create a trust, and trust is anyway two-way journey.
True.
So these are the few things probably matters the most for me.
Wonderful, Sandeshi. It was a really, really insightful discussion with you. Not only finance the way I started, but I'm sure it kind of covered people, it kind of covered the technology aspect as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Naji. Thank you very much.